The Industrial Revolution transformed the way we think, work, and live forever. The Industrial Revolution was an increase in production brought about by the use of machines, characterized by the use of new energy sources. It originated in Britain between the 18th and 19th century. The Industrial Revolution caused major changes in agriculture, manufacturing, mining, transportation, technology, and our main focus, architecture. So how did the Industrial Revolution affect architecture? The quest for neoclassical aesthetics turned into a search for an architecture that made use of the new industrial process and materials. Rather than beautifully made buildings with intent to impress, buildings were developed with the possibilities granted by new technologies and materials, especially iron and steel. In place of the quest to develop impressive buildings, the exploration was targeted towards buildings and designing efficient spaces that could efficiently and economically be replicated on a larger scale. With the advancements of the Industrial Revolution, architecture and construction became more affordable. This was especially owed to the ability to prefabricate architectural elements and building materials. Many people in the middle class were now able to afford architecturally designed homes, and architecture was now able to accommodate the growing urban populations.
This is quite evident in materials and efficiency. In 1800, the global amount of iron produced was 825,000 tons. 1 century later, in 1900, with the Industrial Revolution in full swing, the global production rose to 40 million tons. Almost 50 times as much as in 1800. The drastic increase in iron and steel production and structures built out of these materials was largely driven by the expansion of railway infrastructure in England and other parts of Europe. As a side effect, more bridges were needed and the new materials allowed for larger spans to be covered. This early ironworks bridge was not like later iron bridges, but was rather more the direct translation of the stone arch bridge into one made of metal.
One of the best examples of the architecture that came about in the Industrial Revolution is the Crystal Palace in England. The Crystal Palace was not designed by an architect but by a gardener, Joseph Paxton. Even though there were 245 submissions for the competition to design a building for the Great Exhibition of 1851, none of them met the requirements. This gave Paxton the opportunity to present his idea. His design became known by the nickname Crystal Palace and was a direct result of the possibilities granted by the technological advancements in building processes and material during the Industrial Revolution. The structure was prefabricated, assembled on-site, and utilized large quantities of iron and glass, which is in a way similar to many modern buildings too. The exhibition was considered successful, but Paxton and the Crystal Palace did not find much praise until the 20th century, when modernist architects, and among them architects like Le Corbusier, reviewed this innovative structure and the application of manufactured parts. August 1850 saw the groundbreaking for the Crystal Palace. For the entire structure, only one size of glass was chosen, which hence determined the size of the repetitive units that made up the structure. The use of prefabricated elements in the modular design allowed the speedy build and the low overall cost. 19 hectares of the Hyde Park in London were covered by the structure in a little under 9 months of build time. The central barrel vault transept was crossed by a long flat roof nave, and the building was completed on time and opened by Queen Victoria on 1st of May 1851. After the Great Exhibition, the Crystal Palace was dismantled and rebuilt in Sydenham on the outskirts of London. But the Crystal Palace was not just a relocated building. When it was rebuilt in 1852, and 1854, the structure used twice the amount of glass it had used earlier and was increased in size by the addition of 2 barrel vault transepts at the end of the original nave. The Crystal Palace remained an attraction until 1936, when it unfortunately burned down in a disastrous fire. The loss was felt locally and internationally, especially in the architectural community, and Le Corbusier was one among those who lamented its destruction. Today, there are no visible signs left of the Crystal Palace. However, London could soon see the return of this landmark, since in October 2013, a Chinese company announced its intention to rebuild the Crystal Palace as part of a £500 million project. The technological advancements and building materials that came about during the Industrial Revolution laid the foundation for the modern architecture of the early 20th century, and is the basis even of high-rise and skyscraper construction of today. With the further perfection of prefabrication of metal and iron-based materials, our generation has been able to enjoy further improvements of efficiency and costs with related to construction and architecture.